Hey, Falcons and NFL fans. Welcome to another episode of NFL Jocks and Pigskins with Tom Pollen, Chris Mitherman behind the scenes with us producing. I'm Dave Holcomb. We've got an off-season edition of Jocks and Pigskins. We're talking Atlanta Falcons free agents that they could target in a couple of weeks. We kind of started that discussion last week, and you can catch that on replay if you missed that episode on YouTube. But we'll continue that conversation and get to some of the other hot button rumors going around the league. We had a request last week to talk about the Aaron Rodgers trade. We didn't get trade speculation, and we didn't get to that last week. Also didn't talk about all of the coaching hires, Tom. That's a couple of topics that we could get to today as well.
Right.
But it's the off season, but we have a ton of discussion points that we can get to today.
Well, yeah, there's always plenty to talk about, always plenty happening. That's the NFL these days, 24/7, 365. So they have managed to make the sport a full year exercise, and which is good for guys like us. So I'm fine with that.
Yes. And of course, there's still football going on too, the USFL. You watch any of that opening week?
No, but apparently the XFL has been going on for a couple of weeks too. So you can't forget about the XFL.
Okay.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson bought the XFL, and they are playing football. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't know. I might watch a little of it just, to see it, just to see some football. But, it's purely minor league stuff. Guys who just have never been able to make it, never were, never was's, and, NFL guys that, managed to hang on for a while and play professional football a little bit longer.
Right. This is a whole nother discussion that maybe we should talk at length about in a future episode. But I've seen a lot of chatter online about a minor league system for the NFL, and why not start that? Because you have these players now that, whether they're players that used to be on people's fantasy teams, or they were top picks, or they went to the colleges of fans that, they followed them before they were in the NFL. There are a lot of names that you recognize on these XFL and USFL rosters. And you just kind of wonder if the NFL would ever consider, a more typical minor league system like the other three major U.S. sports have, and set up a system where you're watching, the Falcons AAA affiliate, their AA affiliate, whatever.
Right.
I don't know if there'd be that many levels, but
there wouldn't be any levels. There'd be one level to it.
Yeah. But maybe I think I haven't looked into the TV ratings for the XFL or the USFL. I do think they do fairly well for not being the top level of in their sport. They do fairly well. So it just makes me wonder, like, how much better would they do if you could draw in an audience by saying, hey, these guys could be playing for the Falcons this coming fall, and do that, for every organization. Your Chicago Bears, you could be watching players that could make the practice squad or make an impact for the Bears this coming fall.
I don't see why not. Other sports make that happen. Baseball, you're always watching guys. You're watching your minor league system. These guys could be with the Braves or Cubs or whoever over in the next couple of years. I know the Blackhawks in hockey, their high affiliate minor league team is in Rockford, which is only an hour drive away from Chicago. So you've got your minor league players are only playing a mile west, and you can go see them anytime too. So I can't see a downside to it. Of course, the NFL will say, we spent a lot of money on this, but it's $1 billion league. This league just rakes in money, and I don't see why they couldn't have a minor league system. and sell it like, here are your future NFL stars playing
Yeah.
here this week, and
Yeah.
that's basically what NFL Europe was. It was supposed to be a minor league system, and I think they can make it work if they want to. That's the whole thing, is want to.
Right. Right. And I can see why maybe NFL Europe cost more, had higher expenses, probably back when they were doing it 20 years ago is when NFL Europe was around, right?
Yeah.
The game had not quite grown yet to the point where it was popular in Europe. They weren't even doing the games in London yet 20 years ago. So that's really expanded. And I'm not even proposing putting it in Europe, which would be a cool idea. But
right.
I mean, I think city like Birmingham, a couple hours from Atlanta, would be a great spot for a minor league affiliate of the Falcons.
Right. Exactly.
I wonder if they're worried about, upsetting the college level, if that's maybe a reason why it hasn't happened yet, because college is kind of a minor league system for the NFL in many ways. And maybe players wouldn't want to go to college. They'd want to just jump straight into the minor league system for the NFL, and that would upset, the big schools. I wonder if that's a factor. I have no idea, but I wonder if that is, other than money, maybe that's a reason why it hasn't happened yet.
I think that's a great point. I hadn't thought about that, but that's a great point. You'd have a lot of players who just want to jump. And if there weren't the rules about being drafted with your college class, or not being able to be drafted until your college class graduates, or there would probably be a lot more players entering the NFL draft or trying to play professional football. So, yeah, it definitely would affect the college game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would too. Brian says he enjoyed the first week of the XFL.
Did he? Good. I heard there were some fairly good games, so I'm not quite sure. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. But, I'm going to give it a look, and we'll see how it goes. If they don't do anything else, one of the great things about the XFL and USFL is they get to try out new rules, get to try out a few different things, like I think the XFL is taking you to the replay booth, taking you to, I forget who's doing it for the, Gene Steratore is in the booth, and you get to hear him review plays, and they talk about the review process and the plays. And then, it's all transparent that way. And I know a lot of fans would love to see the NFL do that.
Yeah.
But you get to see these different processes. I think the NFL takes a look at these processes in other leagues, and, well, that would be good for us. Sorry, very tired today. Wouldn't work for us, that kind of thing. So it's an interesting thing when you get these minor these spring football leagues. The NFL gets a good look at what may work for their game.
Yeah. Brian says all the access is very cool, and I think this summarizes the XFL and the USFL, or spring football really in general. It's not near the caliber of NFL players, but still entertaining, and I think that's why eventually, or it's kind of surprising that the NFL wouldn't want to try and capitalize on the fact that there's this dead area for football, and the demand isn't gone just because football is passed. There is a demand. Maybe a little break is nice, but by March, I think people are revving up for football, and that's why free agency has become such a big thing following the last few years, and the NFL draft has obviously blossomed over the last generation. So if it's football, people are going to watch. It almost doesn't matter the caliber of players.
But see, that might be the thing too, is the NFL knows that they have everybody's attention anyway.
There's no need to have games.
There's no need to generate actual football games when you have your 32 teams and their fan base is preparing for free agency and the college draft and team workouts, organized OATs, and it kind of having a slate of games of a minor league schedule might take away from all the other aspects of the offseason that the NFL has made into an event. It's all events in the offseason for the NFL.
That's true. That's true. I wouldn't think it would, though. I don't think it would take away, because if you don't want to watch the games, you want to break from football and you just want to focus on the events, then you don't watch. But there's clearly an audience, because the XFL and the USFL do well. And are you saying those people don't pay attention to the NFL events, the draft and the schedule release and that?
No.
I think they pay attention to both. So
right.
I see your point. I think that's maybe the NFL's thinking that, but I think they could do both if they wanted to.
So do I, but it would cost them money. And
right.
That's a terrible thing. You can't have that.
You can't have any more costs. Gary says if there's a way for them to make money, they will surely make it happen.
Yes, exactly, Gary. They will do it one way or another.
And RC Plane Builder says, what's good? Good morning, RC Plane Builder. Thanks for tuning in with us.
Yes.
Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app, use the promo code ASU to get started. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. So that's some free money. And then you can place some entries on some of these games that we're not breaking down, but we are mentioning the XFL, USFL. Yeah. They are available in the app along with other sports, NBA, NHL, MLB is starting up soon. You got the first spring training games this weekend. So
that's right.
You know what, baseball will be available in the Prize Picks app as well.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Spring training is starting. Exhibition games are starting. And you got the pitch clock this year.
Oh,
you got the pitch clock coming in.
So what rule changes have they made? They've added the pitch clock. There's going to be like bigger bases, right?
Bigger bases.
Is that it?
Apparently they couldn't. Apparently they couldn't see the smaller bases. The smaller bases were a little bit tougher to,
So is it
the older players needed glasses to be able to see the second, go from first to second. So I don't know. Yeah, they've got bigger bases for whatever reason. Maybe to make it allow runners to avoid tags and kind of make it more exciting that way. I don't know. It's just ridiculous to me that you have a commissioner and an ownership group that hates their game. It's just the way it looks to me is in baseball. They just don't like their game.
Brian says safety, and that makes sense at first base, right? You have the softball bases where you basically have two bases.
Yeah.
You've seen that. So is that what it's going to be, or it's just one base that's a little bigger?
No, all bases are going to be a little bigger.
But I'm saying it's not like two bases next to each other where the runner goes for one and you have the first baseman on a different one.
No.
Like in softball. It's going to be just a bigger base with more
just going to be a bigger base.
Area.
Okay. Right. More area.
Home plate going to be bigger? Strike zone growing?
No, as far as I know, that stays the same. But don't put any suggestions in their head. Yeah.
Well, if you want to increase pace of play.
If anybody with connections to MLB ownership or commissioner office watching the show today,
right? Yeah.
And wow, a bigger strike zone, yeah. Actually, no, they would probably shrink the strike zone because they want more base runners.
Well, no, they want the games to go faster. They should increase the strike zone, more strikeouts.
Well, you force the batters to swing more to, protect the plate. So,
well, I don't know if baseball knows what they want, because they want the games to go faster, but they want more base runners and scoring. Well, the games are going to be longer if there's more scoring. So,
right. I know. Well, what gets me is, as I said, the rules already exist to speed up games. You do not have to grant timeout to a hitter so he can step out of the box. And that's it. And get the pitchers, keep them on the rubber. and keep them pitching. You can speed up the games without doing all this codifying all this into rules. It's just ridiculous. So we'll see how it works. Let's get back to our football.
I just want to say about the pitch clock. I was very against it at first, but I want to see how it works out because I think you're right. There are rules in place to speed up the game already, but those rules aren't working. So I think they're trying other rules.
Rules aren't enforced. They aren't enforced. An umpire will grant a timeout no matter what. They're not enforced.
And players have gotten so used to that. They tried to put in that they're going to fine a few years ago. They had that fine where if you leave the batter's box, you're going to get fined. Players didn't care. And by May, they threw out the rule because everybody was owing like $100,000 every game. So the players rebelled. Players didn't want to follow the rule, that new rule that was supposed to be like an enforcement of the rule that was already in place. So they have to try something else. It's sad that they have to change the game so much, but I do kind of agree that the pace, not necessarily the length of the game, but the pace has gotten slower over recent years, especially
in the playoffs. Gotten slower. Yes, it has.
Especially in the playoffs. It's just atrociously slow. Yeah. Waiting a minute between pitches and you can run to the fridge, go to the bathroom, and you miss like 1-2 pitches. You never miss anything.
Exactly. No, I agree. The pace of the game is slowed down, but it's because of the players. And there are things you could do, but we'll see how it works.
Yeah.
I'm willing to see how this works. I'm not, Dave, I'm an old timer.
I understand. I am as well, but I just want to see how it works out.
I'm used to watching Bob Gibson and Fergie Jenkins pitch 9 innings each in an hour and a half. That's the thing. When you had pitchers who you knew if you didn't run home from school as fast as you could, you weren't going to even see the 9th inning of the game.
Well, unfortunately, the pitchers aren't trained to pitch like that anymore.
No, they're not.
The pitch clock could train them to pitch that way again. That's why I'm optimistic that maybe this thing will work.
That's a possibility.
Brian says things will definitely speed up with 20-second pitch clock, and I agree with him. And he reminds us the Braves are on MLB Network today at 1 p.m. So tune in for that.
Hey. Cool.
And Gary has a comment from his wife that I'm not putting up on the screen. I've heard this argument before, and it's a bad argument. And we don't want to give the MLB executives who are obviously listening to the show any more ideas.
Right.
No more ideas.
Can't do that.
So let's talk Atlanta Falcons free agency. We hit upon some free agents along the defensive line they could target last week. I think there's a couple other names that we could hit on today. A guy that I want to mention that I think they shouldn't target for their defensive line that I'm hearing some chatter for. And then a couple other positions on defense and maybe even on offense of guys that they could target in free agency, Tom.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing names you've come up with. And it's difficult this early because there are a lot of players who are available. Now, one thing we do have to keep in mind is that we are at the point where I think the window opened yesterday for transition tags and franchise tags.
Right.
So, which is going to cut into your free agency, and we'll see how we're going to see over the next couple of weeks who gets tagged. And there are a lot of different interesting arguments over who is worthy of getting tagged, who could get tagged, and what teams are going to do. So I'm very interested in hearing about that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because you're going to have a lot more free agent money to spend too. We have the cap's going to keep going up because we have more money coming into the cap through new media deals and NFL venturing out into new media like Amazon for uh,
Yeah.
and other places, and we're going to get a chance to see some of this as it moves forward.
So one of the guys we talked about last week, Deron Payne, who I think is regarded as, a top 5 free agent this year, number 1 free agent probably along the defensive line. I'm glad you brought up the franchise tag because Mike Florio reported that it's very likely that Washington will franchise tag Deron Payne. So it doesn't look like he'll be available for the Falcons or any other NFL team in free agency.
Nope. No, absolutely not. And it's unfortunate because it would be nice to have him out there, but yeah, he is not going to be available. They are going to franchise tag him. So, and that's the thing. You end the season, you start looking at these guys, you say, man, he would look great in a Falcons uniform. And all of a sudden, it turns into something that just isn't going to be available. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Now, the one thing I'm a little surprised about, I've been hearing some talk that the Falcons may franchise Caleb McGarry.
Yeah, now, I heard that chatter this week as well.
Now, to me, that's fascinating because they didn't find it necessary, or they didn't think he had played well enough to extend his rookie deal to take his option year.
Right.
So, but you don't have a lot of left tackles out there, or right tackles. Just not a lot of tackles out there that you can look at as a quality free agent. So, most of them are either too old. Taylor Lewan just got let go by Tennessee this last week, but he's going to be 32 when the next season starts.
He's also just so injury prone. I wouldn't mind signing him if he's healthy, but he hasn't been healthy in maybe 4 years. It's been 4 years, I think, since he played 15 games in a season.
And with this team, this is not a team where I want to bring in an older free agent because this isn't a team ready to contend yet.
Yeah.
You don't quite know what you have with the Falcons going into next year yet. So you want to watch out that you're not overpaying for some of these veteran free agents, veteran linemen on offense and defense, because they're not going to be with you when you are ready to contend. You're almost like, you don't want to build with them because then when they're gone, you're going to have to keep rebuilding those positions when you have other positions already in place. You feel like you've filled some of your other holes. Now, all of a sudden, you got to refill this offensive tackle. I want a player where you can get 2 contracts out of them. That's kind of what I look for a young team, a team that's rebuilding. Can I get 2 contracts out of this guy?
Well, a franchise tag on McGarry will be a cap hit of about $18.2 million. And that seems like a lot for McGarry. But if you look at, I know, you got some people love the Pro Football Focus grades. Other people don't even want to look at them. The truth is, for offensive linemen, there are no stats for those guys. So I think we have to be more reliant on Pro Football Focus for how those offensive linemen play. I thought McGarry was better last year, but I think just the blind test, the eye test, I would say probably not, to the point where I would pay him $18 million. But I'm looking at his Pro Football Focus grades. I looked at him this morning, and he was the number 4 offensive tackle in the entire league, according to Pro Football Focus. And he just made a huge jump in his level of play, which I guess the Falcons really weren't anticipating. That's why they didn't extend his, take the 5th-year option, which you mentioned.
Oh, because his first couple of years were terrible. Yeah,
average at best. In 2021, 62.8 was his player grade. 2020, 64.3. It was even worse the year before, his rookie year. but this year was 86.6, and he really excelled in run blocking,
Yes,
91.6.
that was very noticeable.
Excellent run blocker.
Yes, that was very noticeable. Excellent run blocker this year. And it's great if you could still get that kind of run blocking out of him. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing them put the franchise tag on McGarry this year and see if he continues to progress in his play. Because, yeah, you're not necessarily looking for top pass blocking out of right tackle. You got to have it, of course.
Sure.
But, you need that run blocking out of a right tackle, and he's one of the best at it right now. So, yeah, I could see them pursuing McGarry as a franchise tag and keeping him around. And that's one less hole you have to fill on this offensive line.
Yeah.
As you still have plenty of holes to fill on this team.
Right. And actually, offensive line, I don't know if I'd go all the way to a strength for the Falcons, but it was a lot better last year than it's been in years past. Not as many obvious holes.
Right.
Elijah Wilkerson was another guy that played well and maybe surprisingly well and is a free agent. So, what do they do with him too along the offensive line? I guess the money is there to put the franchise tag on McGarry, which is why I would probably do it as well, Tom. And doing the franchise tag, you're not committing to him beyond this coming year.
Right, exactly. And you leave yourself the option of getting him under contract during the season or before the next season starts. You're keeping him around and not giving other teams a chance to negotiate with him. You get a chance to negotiate with him and see if you can't come to terms. There are franchise tag players who do come to long-term deals. And again, McGarry is young enough that you're going to get a couple of contracts out of him. If he keeps progressing or if he stays at this level where he's giving you that great run blocking. And I did notice that this last year that he had vastly improved as a run blocker. You can keep him around. He might still be around when you're ready to contend. And that's what I'm looking for. Guys who are going to be around when you're ready to contend.
Does what the Falcons do at quarterback impact what they should do with McGarry? Because they had Mariota last year, a run-first offense, a running quarterback. They're probably going to have a run-first offense if Desmond Ridder is the starter, but say they bring in one of those, free agent quarterbacks that we've talked about in previous Saturdays, and it's more of a pass team. I don't think they're going to bring in Derek Carr, but say they bring in somebody like Derek Carr, and it's more of a pass offense. I think that's, eventually where Arthur Smith wants to go. A kind of run to set up the pass, run to set up play action, I think is what he wants to do. Does that impact, because McGarry's so much better at run blocking right now, does that weigh in on your decision of whether or not to bring him back?
I don't think so. No. So I think even if you get a straight pocket passer, you're still doing okay with McGarry at right tackle. As I say, right tackle, not left tackle.
Yeah. No, he's not a liability in pass blocking.
No.
And I guess that's probably why, I think your answer's
that's kind of what, why, that's pretty much why I say that the quarterback situation, I don't think really plays into it as much. It's going to be interesting to see what they do at quarterback between Ridder. I'm looking at the free agent list as far as quarterbacks right now. Derek Carr's already rumored to the Jets. I mean, the Jets have heavy interest in Derek Carr.
I'm just laughing because I feel like 3 or 4 different quarterbacks are going to the Jets. So
now I don't know. My God, I mean, there's not a lot of quarterbacks. Either they're too old or they suck. So you're looking at that as far as free agent quarterbacks. Um,
How about Jimmy Garoppolo? Is he in the too
you
old
know,
category for you?
no. Actually, I think Garoppolo might be a workable solution if the Falcons want to bring in a veteran quarterback to challenge Ritter for the starting job. I don't think Garoppolo never did mesh with Kyle Shanahan. They never liked each other, and I don't know why. Um, it seems like they were oil and water. Shanahan did not like Garoppolo's skill set. Garoppolo did not feel the respect from Shanahan. And I don't, as I said, I don't know why, because I don't think Garoppolo is a bad quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he's a bad quarterback either.
And I think under Arthur Smith, he might be a pretty good one.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah, we'll see if he's potentially a target for the Falcons in free agency. Tony Wright says that Carr will sign with the Jets. He agrees with you, Tom.
Yeah, I think so. I know I've seen a lot of writers playing around with the idea that the Jets might want to make a deal for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think so. You're getting Rodgers at the end of his career. Again, you are a young building team. You do not need Aaron Rodgers on your team. Aaron Rodgers is looking for a winner now. And
Yeah,
you don't have that kind of situation in New York. So, yeah, I would say Derek Carr. Tony, I agree with you. Derek Carr is going to end up with the Jets.
Sports Illustrated has had a list of 5 teams that they thought could trade for Aaron Rodgers, and the Jets were number 2. Do you know the team that was ahead of them, Tom?
Oh, God. Oh, boy. No, I don't. Baltimore?
No, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Las Vegas Raiders. Oh, that would be interesting.
So replacing Derek Carr with Aaron Rodgers, perhaps?
No. If the Raiders think they are a Super Bowl contender next year, yes. If the Raiders, but then you're giving up draft picks to bring in Aaron Rodgers. As I say, your window has to be wide open now if you're bringing in Aaron Rodgers, or else you're losing draft picks. You're losing the ability to build something more solid in the future a couple of years down the line. And I don't think the Raiders' window is wide open right now.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The trade proposal that Sports Illustrated had to Green Bay for Aaron Rodgers was tight end Darren Waller, wide receiver Hunter Renfrow, and the number 7 overall pick.
All right, that's not too bad. Renfrow really disappointed last year. I don't know if it was Josh McDaniels and how Josh McDaniels runs his offense. Renfrow did not play very well last year, considering he's a quality wide receiver. So not a bad deal because you're only giving up one number 1 pick. I could see a trade for that happening again, but it's still, I don't even make that trade unless I think my window is wide open. And I don't think that helps the Raiders. I just don't see them. Does it get them to the Super Bowl? That's your question. And I don't think it does.
Well, Rodgers hasn't gotten Green Bay back to the Super Bowl in more than a decade. So
I know.
It's high standards.
Yeah, I know. Rodgers just, throws for 5,000 yards a year, but, just seems to just deflate when it comes to the playoffs.
So
it just makes me feel terrible that Aaron Rodgers hasn't been able to get back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I have a question for you, and then we'll get to our comments on lots coming in on quarterback free agency. As a Bears fan, do you want to see Aaron Rodgers remain in Green Bay? Because it seems like that. I mean, he's not the MVP quarterback anymore, and his contract is going to balloon so much. it seems like it's unlikely that Green Bay will have the salary cap space to give him the weapons that he will need and the defense that he will need to make another serious run at this thing. I think time has passed for Green Bay. So do you want them to just kind of continue to have Aaron Rodgers and waste away until he retires, or do you want Rodgers out of there? Because I mean, when's the last time Chicago beat Aaron Rodgers?
Well, it's been a while, but still, depleted Aaron Rodgers. If you get the chance to kick the snot out of him a couple of times a year next year, that actually wouldn't be too bad of a thing.
So you want him to stay in Green Bay? So
I want to stay in Green Bay so we can kick the snot out of him.
Okay. I'm gonna bring that quote back after Aaron Rodgers beats the Bears like 30-10.
I know you will.
He always, what is his record's like? Incredible record against the Bears.
Yeah, it is. I agree. They haven't beaten him. They did break his arm one year, so there is that. And Cory Booker will always be one of the great Chicago Bears of all time because he broke. I think Shane McClellan put him down one year. So, other than that, but yeah, it's been rough. I know it's been terrible with the Bears and Packers.
Yeah,
but it's going to turn. It is going to turn. They are ours one of these days. There was a time when the Packers thought the same thing about the Bears. Just can't beat those damn Bears. So,
yeah. All right. 24-5 all time against the Bears.
All right.
I knew you wanted me to bring up that.
You didn't have to look that up.
Right. Yeah. Let's get to our comments.
Right.
Tony says he does believe Rodgers will get traded to the Las Vegas Raiders because of the salary cap space that the Raiders have this offseason.
It's a possibility. But as I say, it might not be the best move for the Raiders. Again, is your window wide open? Can you, with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, can you make the Super Bowl? That's the only criteria to me. If I'm a Raiders fan, that's the only criteria I'm looking at. Do we make the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback? Because Rodgers doesn't have a lot of years left. I mean, Rodgers is near the end of his career. And it's going to be a wonder to see how much longer he can maintain as a quarterback with his arm and judgment. And
he was already showing signs of decline last year.
Right, exactly.
And people wanted to blame everything else going on in Green Bay on their struggles, but Rodgers didn't play well either.
No.
First half of the season did not play well.
Right. So it's going to be interesting to see. But he gives you the potential of being a playoff quarterback. But to me, as I say, if he's not a Super Bowl quarterback, then no, you build elsewhere. You try and do some other things as far as building your team. Aaron Rodgers is not the guy I want to bring in.
Pantera says the Raiders need him now, maybe rather than, I guess, next year with the playmakers that they have signed. The problem, though, Pantera, is, I mean, that trade proposal had them losing Darren Waller, and Jacobs is a free agent this year, so there's no guarantee that Jacobs does come back.
Right.
And I think Jacobs, he was great last season, and you can make an argument they should re-sign him, but remember what he was in 2021 or 2020? Not so good. So how motivated was he last year just because he wanted to play well for his payday? And how motivated is he going to be after he gets the payday? I think that's actually a legitimate – that's always a concern with every player, but real concern I would have with Jacobs because he had such a big year only in the contract season.
Right. Exactly. You got to look at the total package. And, Jacobs gave you a great contract year, but, Robert Quinn on the Bears, defensive end, gave the Bears a great contract year. with was 17 sacks, and but the Bears didn't extend him. He went. I think the Bears. I forget how the Bears did it, but they did end up trading him to Philadelphia, and he disappeared in Philadelphia. He did nothing for them. So he had one good season to bolster that contract year. I think the Bears did sign him, for a 1-year deal, and then traded him, and he disappeared. So you think about the same thing with Josh Jacobs. Yeah. Does he, disappear next year for, you trade him to Green Bay? Does he give you that kind of season again, or does he revert to what he was in 20 and 21?
I want to get to a couple other comments. A follow-up comment from Pantera. He would tag Josh Jacobs and not trade Waller to get Aaron Rodgers. You definitely can do both of those things. Definitely, I think you could get Rodgers giving up extra picks instead of Waller.
Right.
It would help. That probably would be smarter in terms of if you want to win now.
Right. You got to have Waller.
Assets that you have now. So, and Rodgers, he's not going to be on the team long enough for that 2024 pick to really matter if you're giving up another pick next year. So,
right.
Yeah, I agree with you, Pantera, that they should lean towards giving up more draft picks. I want to get to this other comment from Brian. He says you could see Garoppolo landing with the Raiders instead of Aaron Rodgers going there.
I could see that too. Sure. I would say why not? I think Garoppolo is going to be a wild card this year. You're going to see Garoppolo talked about as a possibility with a number of teams. And probably none of it true because, as I said, this is a silly season. And one thing I want to emphasize, don't listen to all the rumors and all the stuff coming out that always seems to come out this time of year. Don't necessarily treat these rumors as 100% accurate. Sometimes these rumors get leaked just for the opportunity to see how much traction they gain outside of their outside of the Raiders front office. Raiders front office might have leaked that just to see what kind of traction they would get out of it. And you're going to see the same thing with draft picks. You're going to see teams questioning a draft pick's dedication, questioning a draft pick's talent, especially coming out of the combine. Don't necessarily agree. They might want that player to fall to them. So they're going to start putting out there that you really got to think about the things you hear this time of year, because 95% of it is not true. So it's always interesting to you always have to play that into the equation.
Brian says he loves the rumors, though, Tom.
Love the rumors. Don't trust the rumors. Okay? That's all I'm saying. Don't trust the rumors.
William says we need to try not to spend much money in free agency. That's, I think when he says he's talking about the Atlanta Falcons. We did hit upon that a little bit last week that, these are some big names they could go after. Here's some money they can spend. But we talked about this too, the idea of being careful with where you spend and targeting players that can grow with the team, which is why we like, the possibility of franchise tagging Caleb McGarry and maybe signing him to an extension because he's a young player, as opposed to somebody else, a guy that I teased at the beginning of the show, somebody that is being floated as a possibility for the Falcons, but I don't like the idea of signing him, Jadeveon Clowney. I think is a defensive lineman that the Falcons should stay away from. Yes. He's over 30 years old, didn't do much last year, basically quit on the Browns. They had to send him home before the Week 18 game against the Steelers because he didn't care about he made some kind of comment that this was going to be his last game. He wasn't coming back next year, so the Browns just said, forget it. You don't have to play your last game.
Right.
You don't need to have that kind of guy in your locker room and a guy that really didn't produce much and has gotten by on being a big name out of college, has that huge hit in that bowl game against Michigan, and then being the number one pick. And
Yeah.
he's never really he's had some very good seasons, but has never really lived up to the name that he had coming into the league. And I think, again, he's going to get paid based on that name, and that's a guy the Falcons don't need to pay, even though they have the money to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been living off his college reputation for a while now. No, he's not it's not, that's not the kind of attitude you want in a young clubhouse, with a young team that's building, that's trying to build an identity. And Arthur Smith isn't going to put up with that. He knows the identity he wants to build with this team. And comments that Jadeveon Clowney made last year, as you said, Dave, before that Week 18 game, that's just not going to fly here. And that doesn't fly with me either. I don't care about seeing that kind of player in my clubhouse. So let's, he's a pass. He's not going to grow with this team. He's a guy you want to bring in, kind of like what the Eagles did with Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh last year. Brought him in to strengthen up the interior of their line, to kind of put them over the top. He's a put you over the top player. Yeah. If you're that close, and a Jadeveon Clowney could be the difference between bowing out in the divisional round or playing in the championship game for a Super Bowl berth, then you're a team that wants Jadeveon Clowney. Right now, this is not the guy the Falcons need to pick up.
Yeah, and Pro Football Focus had a list of the top 50 free agents. They had 3 of them going to the Falcons. Jadeveon Clowney was one of them. So I don't think that'll happen. I don't think it should happen. So I strongly disagree there with the Pro Football Focus list and their predictions. Another interesting article that came out this week, Tom, was a mock draft for free agency from CBS Sports. Cody Benjamin made this list. Yeah, and it was a mock draft, but he used free agents, not players in the 2023 draft. And the draft order, if you will, was based on salary cap space. So the Chicago Bears held the number 1 pick. I guess they also hold the number 1 pick in the draft, but they hold the number 1 pick in this mock draft for free agency. And they picked Javon Hargrave, which Tony is chatting for the Falcons to target in our comment section right now. And the Falcons were number 2, and they signed in this mock draft Zach Allen, the defensive lineman from the Arizona Cardinals. I like that possible addition for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, and I'm telling you something. Hargraves has kind of been an under-the-radar guy in free agency so far this year. This is a guy who has the bulk to play nose tackle and to be to pair up with Grady Jarrett. Also has the speed to be a 3 technique, and bull rush the quarterback out of the middle. This is a very tough player who's going to be worth it for any team that wants to pick him up or any team that's able to pick him up. I like Hargraves.
I think he might get overpaid this offseason, especially because he's going to be 30. But yeah, he's been unsung throughout his whole career, and that's going to change for him this year. He's gotten a lot of attention already in free agency, and I think he's going to get a big contract, and deservingly so. He's played really well, and whether it's with the Bears or maybe the Falcons, he will be a nice piece for some team.
Yes, he is. Absolutely. I love it. By the way, I did see you, Mad Mike, so it's great to have you around today. Welcome you. Always great to see you. So, but Hargraves, I love. And if he wants to send Hargraves to the Bears as number 1 pick out of free agency, I am all for it. I'm on it. I will take him and be very, very happy. If I got to overpay a little bit, I will still be very, very happy to bring in Javon Hargraves.
Brian asks how old Hargrave is, and he is 30. He just turned 30 this month. Yeah. How about Zach Allen to the Falcons? Are you excited about that possibility as you are with Javon Hargrave going to the Bears? I shouldn't have mentioned Hargrave to the Bears. You got all excited and focused on that possibility, and your attention came away from Allen and the Falcons.
I think Zach Allen be another solid piece for the Falcons. I do like him as a guy who, as a possibility for the Falcons. So, yeah, I think definitely that's a guy you want to look at. And I think the Falcons are going to take a long look at this summer. So,
guys, be nice to Chewy Lau, I think is his name. He's asking if the Falcons should trade for Derrick Henry, and he's getting murdered in the comments section. I don't think they should trade for Derrick Henry either. I'm not going to defend you, Chewy, but be nice to, I think, first-time commenter. So be nice to him.
But, yeah, Mad Mike, I'm with you. Absolutely no on Derrick Henry. I looked at Derrick Henry last night as a possibility, and no, his age is wrong. He's on the wrong side of his career. He's carried the ball just an incredible amount of times. You got to wonder how much is left in the tank for Derrick Henry because of all the carries he has gotten over the years. I love Derrick Henry, by the way. I do. I really love Derrick Henry. I love the way he runs. I love, the fact that he is a tank and that he's got speed when he does get outside. But no, this is not the time to be bringing in Derrick Henry. Again, his career is over when you're starting to try and contend.
Right.
So that's basically the way I look at it.
I want to return to the Pro Football Focus top 50 free agents list here for a minute. And by the way, Javon Hargrave is number 3 on that list.
Yeah.
He is the number 1 non-quarterback in free agency this offseason, according to Pro Football Focus.
Well, as I said, he's got multiple skills within that inside lineman position. He can do a lot for you inside that almost no other defensive lineman can. So, that's why he's, everybody's picked up on him for this free agent period. There's a good reason for
it. But the number 4 player on that list, and Pantera is right on time with his question here. The number 4 player is Jesse Bates, the safety from the Cincinnati Bengals, and Pro Football Focus has predicted him to land with the Atlanta Falcons in free agency. Safety isn't, I think, as important to defenses as in years past, maybe 5-10 years ago. It was maybe that was because we had Troy Polamalu and Ed Reed in the league where they were such difference makers at safety. We thought, I want the next Ed Reed. I want the next Troy Polamalu. There aren't as many impactful safeties in the league today and as those guys. And it might be somewhat by design. There's just cornerback and pass rushers are much more important. So I guess you have to be careful with how much you spend on a free agent safety, but Jesse Bates is clearly the number 1 safety available. It is a position the Falcons should be looking to upgrade this offseason.
Yes.
And Bates is a young player. Our theme here of target young free agents,
right.
Even if you have to overpay for them a little bit, you're bringing in young guys that can grow with the team, and Jesse Bates checks off all of those boxes.
Yep, checks all the boxes. I like Jesse Bates. I would love to see him. And I don't think safety is as big a need for the Falcons as some other positions, but he's definitely an upgrade. So if you want to bring him in and kind of put a lock on that position over the next 5-6 years, I'm fine with that. Bring him in. I think that would be a great pickup for Jesse Bates.
Seems like our commenters kind of agree with us that he would be a great pickup, but question whether it's the biggest need. It's not the biggest need for the
Not
team.
the biggest need.
I think first-time commenter. This is not his first comment today, but I think it's the first time. Today is the first time he's commenting. He likes Bates a lot, but he's going to want a ton of money for a safety. Yeah, I think that is the big concern.
Right.
You're worried. You're looking at no. This isn't the
you just got out of salary cap hell. You don't want to go back into salary cap hell.
Right.
That's the thing. That's what you want to look at.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tony kind of sums it up here. Top free agent signings for the Falcons are those positions, and maybe safety's fourth or fifth. So you'd rather get guys at those spots, but right. The market is going to impact what you can do, and you can target those needs, those bigger needs in the draft, rather than maybe targeting a safety later in the.
My problem is you're probably not going to be able to target a defensive end in free agency. The good ones are locked up, and that's one of those. That's kind of like left tackle. When you look at the free agent list every year for defensive ends or left tackles or something like that, the good ones are locked up. Teams, when they have a good one, they're not letting them get away. So it's not as easy to find a player like that in free agency as it is in the draft. Sometimes there are certain positions that you can only really upgrade in the draft, where you got to rely on the draft to get that guy.
I want to circle back to a trade proposal that Tony had about 20 minutes ago to wrap up today's show. He says that he believes that Daniel Snyder is crazy enough to make a blockbuster move with the young wide receivers they have and the new offensive coordinator. And I need to find the idea, the proposal. Here we go. After both franchise tags are in place, Tony says that he believes the Commanders will trade Payne, their first-round pick, fifth-round pick, and next year's first-round pick for Lamar Jackson, a second-round pick, and next year's second-round pick with the Baltimore Ravens.
Wow.
And then Tony keeps going, and then he says the Ravens will target either Garoppolo or Andy Dalton free agency. Let's just tackle the trade proposal first, Tom. And that's something. This is a great way to end the show, because we can talk about Lamar Jackson a lot more next week. We can leave with that as our top story.
Right.
Do you think Lamar Jackson, maybe not necessarily just the Commanders, but do you think he's a legitimate trade candidate for a team? Do you think he's not going to end up playing in Baltimore next year?
He's asking for a lot of money, and if you read Pro Football Talk, there are some wiggle room as far as what they agree that Jackson is asking for. Jackson's camp is saying they are not asking for all guaranteed money. Ravens are saying he is asking for guaranteed money. One of the problems you have is that Deshaun Watson set an unrealistic bar for a quarterback, for how much you're going to pay a quarterback.
Right.
And with $252 million all guaranteed, that you really put a lot of teams in a tough position there. As I say, I've seen speculation that says that he's not asking for all guaranteed, speculation that he is asking for all guaranteed. Tell you the truth, I don't know. I don't know how to read that situation, Dave. I'd like to hear what you have to say about it, because I've been trying to make sense of that one the last couple of days, and I haven't been able to do it.
Mad Mike says you just don't want to talk about Lamar Jackson.
I don't know what to talk about because I don't know what's true coming out of these camps.
I guess
And
I tend to believe that he is asking for the guaranteed money because otherwise I think he'd be signed. So
yeah,
unless you think the
but you're
Ravens
looking
are
at a
trying to
quarterback who's
lowball
been
him,
injured the last 2 years too.
that is a factor. I think that is a factor.
So
Yeah.
I think if he had been healthy, this becomes a moot point. Then all of a sudden it becomes, I think they come to terms on a contract a lot easier. But again, you're looking at a running quarterback and a running quarterback who's been hurt 2 straight years. So now I think that's where the problem comes in when you're talking about whether um, the Ravens want. I don't think the Ravens want to guarantee that money, but I actually think they will come to an agreement at some point. Because right now, Lamar Jackson, he gives them their best chance to win. If you don't have Lamar Jackson in your lineup, you're starting over again. Or you're starting again with a free agent who is questionable. You're used to running your offense around Lamar Jackson. I think they
Yeah.
come to an agreement at some point.
And they've designed their whole team to be around Lamar Jackson, especially offensively. They've designed
Yeah,
it to be completely around him, and that's what they should have done. They should have
right.
every team should design their offense to maximize their quarterback's strengths, and that's what
Yeah.
Baltimore has done. But now if you lose that quarterback, you can't find another Lamar
Now you
Jackson.
really lost. Yeah.
That you would be starting over. That's true. Maybe this is just my perspective as a Steeler fan, but I think no matter what Baltimore does, it's going to be the correct decision.
Yeah.
Because Baltimore is such a good franchise. You could argue that, yeah, Lamar Jackson's such a special talent. Yeah, he's been hurt, but he's such a special talent and so irreplaceable that you got to give him whatever he wants. You got to give him the contract that just to make him happy and keep him there. But I also think you could argue that Baltimore has the foresight to know that that could cripple their organization, and he has been injured the last 2 years, not finished the season. So they're not going to dedicate that money to him, and they're going to reallocate that to something else and start over with a different quarterback. And I think you could argue that's the smart decision. So I don't know. I hate to say it's a win-win for Baltimore, but I guess I just have pretty high confidence that that organization is going to do the right thing by their organization.
Well, you see, their organization's been so good over the last few, 10 years, 12 years. Ozzie Newsome was an outstanding general manager. And Eric DeCosta, who's now their general manager, worked under Ozzie Newsome for years. So This is a team with a very settled situation in their general manager spot. They've always done great things to keep Baltimore at the top of the division and keep them in the playoff consideration, playoff talk. Yeah, I think they're going to do the right thing. And so it's going to be interesting to see. I think eventually they're going to come to an agreement. But this gets me back to my point. There are words coming out that, whether it's guaranteed, not guaranteed, how much money, these things come out of each party's camps. You don't know what's true. As I said, they float these things out there to see what kind of reaction they get. So don't necessarily say that just because you heard it said there's a rumor that the Ravens aren't offering guaranteed money. That's not always true. They might float it out there to see what the fans think or see what will come back from Lamar Jackson's camp. So it's going to be interesting to see how this develops. I think they built that team for him, and I think eventually they're going to find a way to sign him.
I think that makes the most sense for sure. That's by all indications publicly, that's what the Baltimore Ravens have said they want to do. So the comment from Harbaugh at the end of the season was 200% chance that Lamar Jackson's back. So they have expressed their desire to re-sign him. I wonder that this has been mentioned a lot by other media members as a potential factor in all of this. Lamar Jackson doesn't have an agent, so he's directly negotiating with the Ravens, and that can always be kind of a sticky situation because the Ravens are telling Lamar Jackson's representatives why maybe they don't want to give in to all the demands, and Lamar Jackson doesn't have representation. They're telling Lamar Jackson directly the issues they have with giving him perhaps the guaranteed money that he wants.
Now, apparently Lamar Jackson's getting advice from the Players Association. So there's also that comes into play.
Okay.
And the Players Association is going to say, no, you don't want to set the bar lower than where we already have it with Deshaun Watson. You don't want to come down from there. We want to go up from there. So there's a lot of variables at play in this. And I'm sure over the next week we're going to get maybe next 2 weeks before this picture starts clearing up. It might get muddier before it gets clear.
Well, I wish we had a lower third that said "to be continued" because back in the old sitcom days, I'd just that with sitcoms. I don't know. Probably not.
Promise to be continued. Right.
We will discuss, I think, Lamar Jackson probably to begin next week's show, and the potential landing spots that he could, unless there's some development this week about him definitely staying in Baltimore. We will talk next week about where Jackson could end up if indeed he can't come to an agreement with the Ravens and becomes a trade candidate this offseason.
And remember, you're going to hear a lot of rumors, and we're going to bring them to you next week, and most of them are going to be false. So just keep that in mind.
Keep all of that in mind. Yep. Thanks for making us a part of your Saturday. We'll be back next week.
Have a great week, everyone.